Hi class, and welcome to our lesson on subtracting fractions. Go ahead and get out your ISN and set it up because we're going to take some Cornell notes on how to subtract fractions. So the first thing I'm going to do is give you some tips on how to subtract fractions. The first thing you need to know is that you must have a common denominator in order to subtract fractions. You will be using the same steps as we used in the adding fractions notes, but we have two different methods that we'll be introducing, and I'll put back those notes just in case you forgot. Remember that we're going to first be finding our least common denominator. Remember that whatever we do to the bottom, we must do to the top, and then finally we must simplify. Go ahead and skip a line. And we're going to solve some problems where the fractions have common denominators. The two methods that you can use when solving this are the traditional method and the butterfly method. And I will demonstrate both now. So let's say we have a problem 3/5 minus 2/5. The traditional way, I would first make sure that my denominators are the same, and I would bring that over. And then I would just simply subtract the top. 3 minus 2 is going to give me 1. Now, if you were to use the butterfly method, here's how you would do it. First, you would take and loop the diagonal numbers here, and you actually multiply them. So, 5 times 3 is 15. Okay? Then, you would do the same thing with the final two numbers. Multiply them. 5 times 2 is 10. Okay? And then finally, we'll look at our two denominators, and we'll actually multiply those as well. 5 times 5 is 25. So with all this information, here's what we're going to do. We're going to actually come over to the side, and we're going to say 15 minus 10 over 25. Okay? Now, 15 minus 10 is going to give us 5. So we know that that would be 5 over 25. And finally, we need to simplify. If we were to simplify, we know that both of these are divisible by 5. So if we divide the top and the bottom by 5, our final answer is going to be 1 over 5. And as you can see, we arrived at the same answer using both the traditional method and the butterfly method. Now let's move to subtracting fractions with uncommon denominators. Okay, let's try the traditional method here. If I have 4/5 minus 1/2, the first thing I'm going to do is try to figure out how I can get my denominators to be the same by finding the least common multiple. Okay, I know that the one number that both of these 5 and 2 have in common is 10. How do I get to 10? I can multiply 5 times 2, and remember, whatever I do at the bottom, I have to do at the top. Okay? And how will I get to 10 here with the half? I can actually multiply this times 5 and multiply the top by 5 as well. So now I'm going to bring that all down. 4 times 2 is 8, and 5 times 2 is 10, minus 1 times 5 is 5, and 2 times 5 is 10. So now I have 8/10 minus 5/10. And I know that my final answer is going to be 3/10. Now let's see if we can try that same problem using the butterfly method. Okay? So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a loop around my two diagonal numbers here, 4 and 2. Knowing that 4 times 2 is going to give me 8. Okay? Then I'm going to loop here, knowing that 5 times 1 is going to give me 5. And finally, I'm going to look at my denominators and multiply those, knowing that 5 times 2 is going to give me 10. So with that being said, I can set this up as being 8 minus 5 over 10. And as we all know, 8 minus 5 is going to be 3. So our answer is 3/10. Same answer as we got with the traditional method. Finally, let's try some problems with subtracting fraction mixed numbers, okay? The first thing you need to know is that when you have mixed numbers and you're subtracting, you're going to need to change that mixed number into an improper fraction. Now, improper fraction is just a fraction where the numerator is bigger than the denominator. So this would be an example of an improper fraction, okay? So, in order to do that, we have a catchy little song called Multiply, Add, Keep. And so at this time, I need you to pause the video, go over to the math pickup bin, and pick up your lyrics, okay? Once you pick up your lyrics, you are going to tape your lyrics right underneath where you wrote your Roman numeral for mixed numbers, okay? It should fit there perfectly. So now let's teach you how to do the multiply, add, keep chant. All right, once you get this sheet, we're going to learn how to do the chant, and then you're going to actually tape this into your interactive notebook, okay? And I'm going to tape it now. So here's how it goes. Multiply, add, keep. Multiply, add, keep. Multiply the whole number times the denominator, add the numerator, keep denominator. Multiply, add, keep. Multiply, add, keep. Multiply the whole number times the denominator, add the numerator, keep denominator. Multiply, add, keep. Multiply, add, keep. Now let's look at some of our practice problems. Now if you saw me do a little switcheroo, don't worry about it. We all right, okay? Let's use this chant to do these problems. So what we're doing exactly is we are changing from a mixed number to an improper fraction. So how do we do that? We multiply, add, keep. Multiply, add, keep. Multiply the whole number times the denominator. 6 times 4 is going to be 24. Add the numerator. 24 plus 2 is going to be 26. Keep denominator. So 6 and 2/4 is the same thing as 26 over 4. And that's it. So let's try it again. Number 2. Multiply the whole number times the denominator, 24. Add the numerator, 26. Keep denominator. Multiply, add, keep. Okay? Try the next two and see what you get. When you finish those, raise your hand, get my attention. I'll check them, and then we'll move on to solving some real subtraction problems. All right, we're going to solve this problem using the traditional method here and then the butterfly method. So when I see that I have two mixed numbers that I'm subtracting, the first thing I need to do is change both of these into improper fractions. And how do I do that? I multiply, add, keep. Multiply, add, keep. Multiply the whole number times the denominator, 30. Add the numerator, 33. Keep denominator. Okay, same thing here. Multiply the whole number times the denominator, 6. Add the numerator, 7. Keep denominator. Okay, multiply, add, keep. I'm going to get some white out because I made a mistake. But you know what? That's okay. You didn't make that mistake. And that's what counts. So now we have 33 over 5 minus 7 over 2. The first thing I need to do now is to find a common denominator. I know that the common denominator, the simplest one that I can think of between 5 and 2 is going to be 10. Why? Because I can multiply 5 times 2 to get 10. And I'll do the same thing at the top. And I can multiply 2 times 5 to get 10. And I'll do the same thing at the top. So right underneath, we're going to bring that down. If I know that 3 times 2 is 6, then 33 times 2 is going to be 66 over 10. Minus 7 times 5 is 35 over 10. And when I subtract these two, my answer is going to be 31 over 10. Now, let's try the butterfly method and see if we get the same answer. With the butterfly method, the first thing we're going to have to do is go ahead and change to an improper fraction using our multiply, add, keep. But because we've already done it here, we're going to just bring that down here. Now, using the same butterfly method we've been using, I'm going to start by wrapping a circle around my diagonal numbers here, knowing that 33 times 2 is going to give me 66. Next, I'm going to take my other two numbers and wrap them in a diagonal, knowing that 7 times 5 is going to give me 35. And finally, I'm going to look at my denominators, knowing that 5 times 2 is going to give me 10. Now that I have all this, I can essentially set my problem up to say 66 minus 35 over 10. Okay? And I know that 66 minus 35 is going to give me 31 over 10. And so now we're here where we ended up. Now, if you want to change your improper fraction into a mixed number, all you have to do is set up a division problem just as you see it. So essentially we would go 31 divided by 10, knowing that 10 can go into 31 3 times, and we have a remainder of 1. So this represented as a mixed number would be whole number 3 and 1/10. So these two are the exact same answer. Now that you have this completed, move forward with the rest of your task sheet. Happy mathing!